Happy New Year, everybody! I wanted to take a quick second to say thanks for your amazing support in 2022. As we enter 2023, we are approaching the end of one of the defining metas of this year, the long pull linear. So tonight, we're taking a trip down memory lane to answer one question. Where did long pull linears come from? Oddly, the answer to that question begins with a tactile switch. But first, what is a long pull linear? We've had this discussion in previous reviews, but a long pull switch is one where the stem pull is longer than the cherry spec, which can lead to a reduced travel distance and a quicker, louder bottom out. To me, the defining characteristic of the current long pull meta is the unique sound and feel that occurs due to the reduced travel distance and the quicker bottom out, rather than the stem pull length itself, but the jury's out on that one. In any event, reduced travel distance is nothing new in the hobby, with people adding bits of dental rubber bands or ball bearings to the bottom housings since at least 2015. But the long pull stem meta started with this tactile Frankenswitch, the Holy Panda, which combined the stem from an Input Club Halo switch and the housing of an Inveer Panda linear. The longer stem pull on the Halo contributed to its unique bottom out sound, and the idea of a long pull switch started catching on. The first mention of the modern idea of a long pull linear can be found on this Reddit post from June of 2020, where u/Nanimo documented his findings. 2 months later, according to this post, u/Kimchi Jody Boy was looking to replicate the Holy Panda sensation in a linear switch. The Novelties Cream, first released in late 2018, is generally accepted as being the first long pull linear switch, but the long pull clack made it to the mainstream in mid-2021 with the Black Cherry Pie, which took a JWK H1 bottom, a cherry top, and a cream stem. Unlike the stock cream, which combined a longer stem pull with a longer bottom housing receptacle to keep overall travel distance at roughly 4mm, the BCP shortened the travel distance to the bottom out, which caused a more clacky sound signature. Thanks to the power of the hype train, BCPs meant that the linear gang finally had their own endgame clout chaser switch to combat the Zyko, and the long pull linear meta officially began, with hundreds of geek hack interest checks and group buys popping up faster than you could click that like button. Among the first was the Bolsa Supply Zaku, which was a Texi manufactured one-switch alternative to the BCP that offered some serious clack and made long pull linears more accessible when they weren't selling out in literal minutes after restock. Not every vendor can claim that they've made a switch that's defined a meta, but the Zaku was and continues to be one of the benchmark long pull linear switches that have been released over the last year and a half. So what makes the Namazu switch different? They're the first switch that I've reviewed on this channel from SP Star, short for Superstar Studios, who apparently is a joint Chinese and Japanese company that started marketing on Instagram in April of 2020. There isn't too much info about them online, but they have released a few switches that have been pretty highly regarded within the community, like the Meteor Whites and the Magic Girl switches. The Namazu uses a proprietary nylon blend for its top and bottom housings, with a palm stem and a 65-gram spring. It doesn't specify on the listing whether that's actuation or bottom out, but in my testing, I found the actuation force to be roughly 52 grams, so it's pretty light. The Namazu also has a listed 3.5mm travel distance compared to the 4mm travel on a standard Cherry MX Black. That's 1776 minus 14.54. So the stem on the Namazu is only 13mm give or take, which isn't exceptionally long, and that explains the relatively tame by long pull standards 3.5mm reduced travel, although in my testing it seemed like the travel was actually closer to 3.2mm. That being said, let's take a listen to how these switches sound. So unlike in my normal videos where I have a stock sound test to start things off, the batch I received from Bolsa Supply was lubed with 205G0. Let's take a listen to them in my Polaris, but keep in mind that they're already modded. Here we go. I do have a handful of stock switches which come unlubed from the factory. Here's a quick comparison between stock and lubed. They sound and feel great stock, but there is some spring noise, so I have to dock some points off. but the modded switches really blew me away when I put them in my Polaris, which usually sounds very neutral and a little too crisp with the brass plate. I'm personally not the biggest fan of the Zaku's bright and sharp sound signature, and I prefer the more balanced sound of the Namazus. I do, however, feel like at 65 cents per switch, they aren't quite as good from the value standpoint as the Zenclack Oolongs or the KNC Green Jackets, both of which are 60 cents per switch. I also can't say any of them are necessarily better or worse than any other, but the nylon blend of the Namazus definitely has a great sound to them that I've really enjoyed. I'll be on the lookout for more SP Star switches to try, so let me know in the comments below if you have any recommendations. I'm MakerMods, and I'll catch you in the next video.